Will having a lot of hobbies and having fun allow me to hook up?
Well, the reality is you're most attractive when you're smiling and you're having a good time. So you should spend your life doing things that light you up on the inside, that are emotionally compelling, that are fun, that when somebody invites you to go do something in that particular activity, you're excited about it. And if you're there doing something that's fun and exciting, you're going to smile, you're going to be at ease, you're going to feel calm. Women are going to see that. You look like a fun guy, you're having a good time, you're smiling a lot, you're approachable. And girls will tend to come over and put themselves into your orbit in hopes, and then I fuck you basically when they like you, but in hopes that you do something about it. Versus a guy who's lonely and he's unhappy and he's like, I got to meet somebody. And he's like, well, I guess I got to go to a bar because that's where all the girls are. But he doesn't like to drink. He doesn't like hanging out in bars. And he goes by himself, pops a couple beers, trying to pretend like he's there and he really wants to be there. He's really hoping to meet somebody, but the activity sucks. And then you typically see is one of those guys is sitting in the corner with the beer and covering up his emotional center and his hand in his pocket and kind of a, just a deadpan look on his face. He's not smiling, or he doesn't look very happy. And so if you're in that environment and you're not having a good time, no girls are going to approach you. And if a guy is out and whether it's a social gathering at a bar or just a friend's barbecue, if you're telling a funny story to a bunch of friends of yours, maybe there's some girls there and everybody's laughing and they're really into the story, other women see this and then they're going to want to come over and hear what it's all about. But if you're in the corner by yourself and you're doing something that you hate, nobody's going to come near you. So you got to do things that you love and you enjoy and get to a happy place first. Not be in a miserable place thinking, okay, once I find the right girl, then I'll be happy. It's get to a happy place first and do things you love and enjoy for fun, because that's when you're going to be most attractive and you're going to be the most approachable. And women will feel safe and comfortable doing that and they'll come over to you. Whereas if the vibe you're giving off is this fucking sucks, I hate being in a bar, I feel so weird and awkward, I don't know anybody here, the music's too loud, it's hot in this place, people are bumping into me, and you're kind of irritated, it's like you're giving that vibe off, everybody's going to stay away from you. You're going to be totally invisible.
What you focus on expands. If you're so focused on a relationship and things aren't going nowhere, you're only going to get frustrated. So you're better off just doing what you love, do hobbies, because when you do those hobbies, say if you do like a sewing class or like a pottery class, you're going to meet people doing that.
Yoga. Yoga's a great place to meet girls if you're more of like a spiritual kind of person. And, yoga girls are very flexible, obviously, so there's definitely some benefits to that. But if you move into a new city, number one, it's healthy. And number two, most times when a guy goes into a yoga class, it's mostly women there. Maybe a few gay dudes are in there, but it's mostly girls. And if you're like the only guy in there and you're like, oh, this hurts, this is tough, the girl's going to be laughing at you and they're going to be joking around. And, the teacher will probably slow the class down a little bit to work with you because you're kind of like one of the slow ones. But since you're the only guy there, you're outnumbered. And if one girl starts talking to you, even if she's not the prettiest one there, then the other ones see that and they think, oh, he must be safe. And then you feel more comfortable for the other girls to come over and start talking to you. And if it's a class that you go to at the same time for quite often, within a few weeks, you can pretty much get to know all the girls in the class. Some of them are going to inevitably, they're going to know each other, they're going to be friends. You're like, hey, let's go out for coffee, let's go to lunch after this or whatever. And they might invite you to come along. Doesn't mean you're going to sleep with any of them, but you get to know them, you befriend them. And then you start talking. Obviously, dating and relationships are going to come up, especially when you're hanging out with a bunch of women because they're going to ask. And typically, if there's women in that group that are interested in you, they're going to ask you about your personal life, if you're single or if you have a girlfriend, you're married, or whatever. And typically when women do that, it's because they're interested and they're curious to see whether you're open or not or available or not. And you can tell women that you're in the group with what it is you're looking for. And all women love to play matchmaker. They love to try to set people up and make happy love stories happen. And so when everybody in your group, in that case, your peer group of women that are in the yoga class know all about you, they like you, they trust you, they have fun with you, you're not creepy, you're not hitting on them, you're not trying to get in their pants, you're just there hanging out, women will get more aggressive, whether the ones in the group like you or they want to introduce you to their hot single girlfriends. And if you're clicking with them, you're probably going to click with their single girlfriends, just because like attracts like. People that like the same things tend to like each other. And you'll find when you date in a group like that, any kind of social setting, any kind of social group, is that you'll find that you meet a lot more like-minded people and the conversations flow way easier than hoping to bump into some random girl on the street or in the grocery store or whatever. And so anything that you can do to increase your social network and hang out with people that are like-minded, whether you join a yacht club or you join a country club if you're into golf, or a hunting club if you're into hunting, or a rock climbing club or team. They have groups of that. I mean, I did a video newsletter probably a month or two ago. It was a guy, he was really into rock climbing, and I think he had broken up with a girl he was dating a few weeks before. And he was like, you know what, I'm just for the hell of it, for shits and giggles, I'm going to go to a different class where I don't know anybody, and maybe I'll meet some new people. And sure enough, he goes there, and there's this really cute girl, it's really fit. He hits it off with her. They start climbing together, talking, and they come to find out they have all kinds of things in common that they like doing outdoors. And so for their first date, I think they went on a hike and went down to a stream and everything. And if I remember right, last I heard, he was still dating that particular woman. And it was just because he was having fun rock climbing. He loves doing it. And then there's a cute girl that also likes doing it that happened to be going at a different time. And if he hadn't have switched his times up, he would have never met her. And so he's there in a place he's familiar with and people know him. So that helps give you social proof, because when you walk in the door, everybody's like, hey, Bob, what's happening? Or, hey, Norm, if you ever watched the old Cheers show, the bar show from the 1980s. And it gives you social proof. And the women feel safe being around you because everybody knows you there. And if everybody knows you there, other women know you there, even though you're a total stranger, they feel safe with you. And it makes it very easy to meet and then go out on dates from there. And all he was doing something he really loves to do, which was, in that particular case, rock climbing.
Yeah, honestly, in those like particular scenarios, it's way easier to meet someone than, say, a bar or club, because I feel that a lot of people who are in bars and clubs, they're there just to party, and they're there to fool around.
And plus it's loud.
Yeah.
And they're drunk, sometimes on drugs.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I feel in social, like when there is an actual social setting, that is the right time to be able to get to know someone.
Yeah, if you're going to go to a bar, you want to go to like a kind of like a sports bar, like an ale house, something like that, where they'll have sports on and music, but you can actually sit and have a conversation with people. Whereas you go to like a nightclub or something like that, and the music's so loud, you scream at each other. And then by the time you get home at the end of the night, you're totally hoarse because you've been yelling all night to everybody. I mean, that's just miserable. I did not enjoy those things. Back in the day when we used to go to the club, we would get like a VIP table, and usually the music wasn't as loud there, and we could hang out, we could eat food, we could have drinks, we could go down to the dance floor sometimes if we wanted to, but it was nice to have a place to hang out and congregate. Plus, when you're doing something like that and you got a table and there's all kinds of girls around, and they see you sitting at a table with a bunch of girls and other dudes, it's like they want to come over and hang out and join your party. So it makes it very easy if you're into those kinds of things to meet women in that environment. You go to an after party or whatever. I used to have a full liquor bar in my place upstairs, and so after things closed, we would go back to my place and hang out at my bar all night, shoot the shit or whatever.
Jocelyne, where would you go? What would be somewhere like doing your hobbies? Where would you go to meet a significant other?
Well, currently I'm in a choir, so there's definitely a bunch of people who do choir.
There's guys too?
Yeah, there is.
Oh, okay.
I'm also about to take an acting class as well, too. So that is also another place. And I'm into the arts. I have a creative background. So that kind of stuff, not that it means anything, but I had an ex who was in the creative side, and I felt like I had a lot more in common with him at the time that we were dating. So I feel that if I were to meet someone within that realm, I'll be able to get along with them just well, because I appreciate the arts. I have a creative background. So being able to share that with someone, for me, I just feel like that was a really good way for me to connect with someone. It's like, I don't know, for some reason, it's just easier for me to connect with someone who also has a creative background.
Yeah, and then you can create things together.
Because you got similar hobbies, similar interests, so you have things that are really easy that you're both excited to talk about. Like, Jade likes going to concerts, right? And you met your boyfriend. It was like a last-minute thing. Chunky had an extra ticket. He's like, hey, you want to come to this concert? One of my sisters can't go or whatever. And you're like, sure, what the hell? I'm not doing anything. And you go and show up, and your boyfriend, he's there with some friends of his because he came down specifically for that concert. Because why? He likes concerts.
Mm-hmm.
He likes going to shows. And you end up seeing each other and talking and shooting the shit. And the more you talk, the more you find out that, man, we got a lot of things in common.
Mm-hmm.
And here you are.
And here we are.
About to move in together?
Yeah.
In a few months.
Yeah, like 2 months now. A month and a half, maybe. Hopefully.
But, you're just out living your life and having a good time. And it just so, you didn't have any plans that night. And Chunky's like, hey, I got an extra ticket. And it's something you love doing for fun. So you're having a good time. He's having a good time. You're most attractive. And it's really easy to talk about things because you're both into going to concerts.
Yeah.
Versus you hate going to concerts. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll go. And so if you're there with a scowl on your face and, you got your arms crossed and you're like this, you don't really like the band, nobody's going to come near you. But, when you're having a good time, having a few cocktails in you and really into the music, you meet other people that dig the same thing.
Literally any opportunity you have to socialize with someone, take it, because like what happened with Jade, you never know what could happen. You never know who you can meet. And even like on days where, like, say if a friend of yours like invites you to a party and you're just like really debating it, just go, because you really never know who you're going to meet.
You should step outside of your comfort zone, too. I mean, sometimes it's like, I don't really want to do this. And then you might find out at the end of the day that you really did enjoy it because you did something different than what you're used to doing.
Yeah, I remember when I met Katie, I ran into her the second time after I had seen her. I never got to meet her because she left the event early. And I know we talked about this when she was here last year during the podcast, but that particular night that I ran into her and asked her out, I was out with one of my platinum partners who was a woman, and she was very attractive. And so me and her come walking by the front, and boom, there she is. And then, she was waiting for me, and I started chatting with Katie and made a date with her on the spot, and we were both at the same event. And so when we ended up having our date, it's like we just did not stop talking until 3 or 4 in the morning when all the chairs were on the tables, because we had so much in common. We were both into self-help, and it was like we'd known each other. And versus, hoping to run into somebody like that randomly on the street as you're walking around. You got to think of it in terms of like fishing. You got to go where the fish are. If you're fishing in a sewer and you don't like the quality of the women that you're meeting, especially, for you guys that exclusively do things on online dating, there are some good women on those platforms, but there's a lot of garbage that you got to go through. You got to swipe through. You got to talk to. You got to vet. You go out on dates, and a lot of spinning your wheels versus just going, like in Jade's case, going to a concert because you like music, and you're not. The thought's not even crossing your mind. Oh, I hope I meet somebody today. I hope I meet my future ex today. You're just there having fun with your friends, and all of a sudden you meet the love of your life, and you weren't even trying to do it. You're just there doing something that you love. And because you're happy and you're smiling, you're going to be more enthusiastic. You're more likely to engage in conversation, and things are going to be a lot easier and a lot more effortless versus walking down the street and you're all in your head about something, and then you see a cute girl and you're, what do I talk to her about?
Honestly, dating apps, for me personally, they're just good to like boost your confidence. Like if you get a few matches, say in the case of the guys that are watching this podcast, if you match with a few girls, for me, for them, it's just like a confidence boost. Say you go through a bad breakup and you need that confidence boost, honestly, the dating apps are like really ideal.
Yeah, Gracie got, we did a video about that, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, where she was talking about how, if things didn't work out with a guy she really liked and she's feeling kind of down, she would go on the dating apps and make her profile live, and all these dudes would slide into her DMs. And she wouldn't respond to any of them and would have no intent on it. It was to help her feel better about a breakup or a guy that blew her off or a guy that it didn't work out with or whatever.
Regardless, it's still a good opportunity to meet other people, too. If you decide to match with someone and you go out on a date, just go for it. I mean, it's still an opportunity to meet someone one way or another.
Yeah.
It's a opportunity, but what I see is too many guys rely on it because it basically puts a barrier in between them and the woman to, in essence, lighten the effect or the sting of rejection. Because most people are on their phones all the time these days, and how many people really interact together in public? It's much easier just to swipe and tap a few keys and send a message to somebody you don't know, you've never met, versus running to them and running into them in person, living your life and trying to strike up a conversation and have it flow and go well. Because if you meet somebody in person and it doesn't go well, there's no point in going on a date. But if it goes great, you already know what she looks like. She knows what you look like. You're not wondering whether or not she's gonna look completely different from her pictures, and that's a problem when you're doing online dating. Is that you're gonna have those cases where you talk to somebody for a bit and then you end up on a date and then you walk in there and you're like, oh fuck, they don't look anything like their pictures.
And also a lot of people, like Corey's saying, a lot of people, just like anything, people hide behind their keyboards. So they're saying all this stuff, texting, typing away or whatever, and then you get to meet them and they're nothing like what they were going to say.
Well, eventually what you're going to have is AI writing people's pickup lines and stuff, and you're like, this dude's got so much charm, and then you finally get together in person and it's a completely different guy.
Yeah.
You got into this, it's kind of like what's his name, Andrew Tate was doing, where he was, ripping all those guys off, where the girls are banging away in the keyboard, but the keyboard's unplugged. And it's either him or his brother or one of his guys that was actually typing, because when they let the women do all the typing and conversing with the guys, they didn't get any money. And when the guys were doing it, they knew exactly what they're doing, getting the guy emotionally anchored and hooked, and then start sending all their money their way.
Back when I was on a dating site, this guy was talking to me, and then he asked me what I did, and then he's like, for somebody who works for a relationship coach, he's like, you don't really talk that much on here. It's like, I'm not supposed to be having a full-blown conversation with you through text. And then
I'm not a relationship coach. I'm a life coach.
Well, life coach.
A lot of guys try to pigeonhole me to that, usually when they're trying to insult me, but I teach self-reliance. A big part of it, obviously, a lot of guys have questions about dating and relationships, but a big problem that they have when they're not getting the results that they want is they're displaying a lot of unattractive behavior. And so I'm teaching them things about their purpose, their mission in life, and what they need to focus on as a man to make themselves maximally attractive to all women in general. Because typically what they have is they don't love themselves, they don't love their life, they don't really have much of a social life, whatever it happens to be. And I get them focused on the right things to help them get to a happy place. So not only can they meet and attract the kind of women they want to date, but also they can grow and advance in their career, or go out and start a business, or maybe do a little cleanup in their peer group, because they might have some people in their peer group that are disturbing their peace instead of adding to their peace, because you are who you associate with. And if you got people that are constantly disturbing your peace, or you're hanging out with friends that are always getting in trouble, or one of my friends, we were together recently talking, and we were talking about another friend of ours that we all knew in high school. He was a really handsome, good-looking guy, came from a very good family. They were pretty tight, but he had a drinking problem. Whenever he drank, he turned into a different person. He got mean, he got angry, he would get blackout drunk, want to fight everybody, and we would want to go out and just have fun, talk to girls, try to have a good time. And, he would, with an hour or two into our evening, he'd be so hammered. Because I remember we would go to the store and he would get one of those smaller bottles of Bacardi, the rum, and he would just turn it upside down and half the bottle would go right down his throat in a matter of seconds. He would say, hey, let me have a sip of your beer. You'd give him your beer and he would just go, same thing, turn it upside down as fast as it could come out. He could drink it and he would hand you back an empty beer and laugh at you. And it's kind of funny when you do that, but then, hour later, he's just, he's so shit-faced drunk, and he's trying to fight everybody. And it's like, you do that enough times, we just stopped hanging out with him because he was just bad news. It never got any better. He was in and out of rehab, and, eventually he ended up running into a couple, rear-ended him on I-95, and they lost control, and both of them were killed. And so he got charged with manslaughter, and he got sentenced to 15, 20 years in prison, something like that. And I think he served about 10 or 11 years because he had tons of DUIs and run-ins with the law. He'd been in and out of rehab dozens of times. And then he ended up getting out. I remember back when I was living in South Beach probably 5, 6 years ago, and he wanted to get together, a bunch of us friends, and then all of a sudden he just disappeared. And then we later heard from the grapevine, I think he started drinking again, and he got caught. he violated his probation, whatever, and I guess the judge is making him serve his whole sentence now. So it's like that, you know, you are who you associate with, and so you got people like that are constantly getting in trouble. It's like, you don't want to hang out with people like that. They're not going to help you reach your full potential. And so it's important that, again, you are who you associate with. You're hanging out with people like that, you're causing problems. Women aren't going to feel safe if you're, you know, some of the dudes in your group are always getting in fights. So all of this stuff matters to becoming a well-rounded person.